Sousa Show. Sports,
Sports don't stop, and neither do we. Welcome to 365 Sports, your home for real conversations, original shows, and coverage that lives where sports actually happen. Join David Smoke, Craig Smoke, and myself, Paul Catalina, for in-depth interviews and local stories to the moments national media misses. 365 Sports brings you the voices, debates, and perspectives fans care about every single day. Subscribe now on YouTube, search 365 Sports, and never miss a moment because sports aren't seasonal. They're 365.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
Just use AmPace.
Pace.
With Ease US, make studio quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects, featuring 468 natural AI voices. Customize the volume, mood, and pauses to perfectly match your content. Plus, capture high quality videos with no watermark. Record your screen, webcam, and voice, and save them instantly to your computer. Never been easier to create professional grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US. Since our founding, we've been revolutionizing hair removal with cutting-edge technology and a commitment to empowerment. The U-Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. Experience the future of hair removal today at ulike.com, because at ULike, beauty is about looking and feeling good. That's ULIKE.com. ULike.
Hey, it's Matt Mosley of The Matt Mosley Show. We want you to watch our show every day, 1 to 3 on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And you get to see big name guests like Gary Patterson, Art Briles, Scott Drew, Doug McNamee, major Cowboys insiders, ESPN legends like Sal Paolantonio. When news breaks on Cowboys or Baylor or NFL, we want you to look here first. 1 to 3 weekdays, it's the Matt Mosley Show.
All right, it's the Pete Sousa Show. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today in our lovely studios on Elm Street in Waco, Texas. We're live in Central Texas. And we're just chilling here, baby. We got Cam Stewart on the other side of this whole thing. He is in Boston, Massachusetts. Chris Visser is in Orlando. By the way, the Knights are coming home. They're probably already home with a huge win against BYU. We'll talk about that a little bit. That was a big surprise to me, and I'm sure a surprise to a lot of you. UCF basically punching its ticket to the NCAA tournament with that win. Unfortunately for Baylor fans, right here up the road at Foster Pavilion, a different result for a team that was trying to claw its way into postseason contention, or at least the picture. What a swing for Baylor's NCAA tournament hopes last night. You could call it, barring a miracle, a death nail. There was a death nil or death nail. My brother was giving me a hard. Cam, what is that? Is it a death nail?
I would say death nail, like you did, but the fact that someone is pushing back on it, that gets me worried, Pete. Because there's been plenty of phrases like that I just said incorrectly for years.
Forever, right?
I was very much a nip it in the butt guy for a long time.
But you were.
I found out it was nip it in the bud. So it doesn't shock you. Or for all intensive purposes, not all intensive
purposes. Yeah. I was all intensive for a while, dude.
Yeah, that was one that like I put on a paper in college. It's actually a journalism thing. And the professor like laughed at me. He's like, "What?" He's like, "You can't be serious." I was like 19, but I was like, "Yeah, I'm serious."
Cam, did you do a Locked On Baylor last night?
I did not. No,
dude. That's okay. You're going to get upset now. I can see it in your face. You have to do that.
Okay. My show, man.
But okay.
Didn't pull the upset. It was like midnight. Baylor loses, man. Baylor always loses.
If they had pulled the upset, would you have done it?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
You get a passing grade.
Yeah, I was like ready to go, or not ready to go, but I was obviously locked into the game. I was watching the game, and I was like, if they pull this off, then let's go.
So, all right, let's talk about the game real quick. We're presented by Slovaceks, by the way. Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers. Cannot thank Sikora Family Ford enough. See that? We thank him so much. I'm going to move my head. Lake Waco Golf Course. We'll get to you guys in a little bit in depth. Visser thinks, by the way, we should be getting Do Re Mi for these live reads, and he might not be wrong. So, dude, that guy, he advocates, by the way. And home run, Chris Visser. I shared the Jay Wright thing last night. One, because I wanted to do right by my mom, because she's a legend, and she really is close with all those guys. And some people don't know, and she doesn't care to remind everybody. But so that was cool. Also, a lot of people were like, man, what a get. Tim Brando. Wow, great get, Pete. Not me. No. Chris Visser. So big props to Big Chris. I got to spend a bunch of time with him yesterday over the phone. We were talking to Chad Brown. Some always something happening, right? At 365 Sports and Road Media, always. And Visser's in the middle of it, which is the best. No, thanks so much to Chris, and thanks to Coach Wright. You can watch the full interview up there. It's on YouTube right now. And getting into this Baylor game, because I do want to talk Big 12. And then we're going to talk St. John's UConn. We got a big guest coming on, David Berov. And he knows all about St. John's and their 13-game winning streak. They are red hot right now coming into this game. They're 16-2 on the road in the Big East since the start of the season. Cam, don't go away. Come on, I need you here.
All right.
No, I want to talk Baylor, Arizona. This is another one. This is like USA hockey. When you're the perfect guest, this keeps falling into my lap.
Well, we're now. I mean, this episode we'll talk about two universities that I got accepted to.
Who is this? Baylor and
the Johnnies.
Oh, how come you didn't go to St. John's?
Because I don't like New York and I'm not Catholic.
Dude, you would have thrived.
Probably. Big city Cam. I got a free application, so I applied. I never even visited.
Are you Baptist?
No.
You came to Baylor?
Yeah. Wanted to get away. Like Texas.
Give me a break. All right. So last night's game, a couple things that I mentioned to John Morris, who was in the studio before me. Make sure you check out JMO's show every day, 9 a.m. live on 365 Sports. Of course, you can get it in the Apple Forum, the Spotify podcast later on in the day. But JMO and I, he's on the call obviously last night, and I was like, I got to give Baylor fans credit. Like the Arizona State game, I mentioned it yesterday. The place was popping. Just watching from afar, great crowd, and then last night against Arizona, I mean, attendance and life from the crowd has not been an issue for Scott Drew and Baylor this year, which at times it can be. Maybe it's been the right days and the right opponents, but either way, cosmetically, it's looked pretty good. The outcome was not what they wanted, and like I said off the top, I think that was such a pendulum swing for Baylor's NCAA tournament hopes. For somebody like you who knows the team as well as you do and follows it like you do, Is that it for them?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think they were in the picture before, but if they had won last night, obviously that in and of itself, huge resume booster. But also then you think, okay, well, who else can this team beat over the next 3 weeks? That's a real question, 2 weeks or whatever. And it was a heck of a game. I mean, they gave it a really good fight. I was sitting there kind of laughing 5 minutes into the game. Fleming's talking about, this could be a big upset here. I'm like, what are we talking? It's 19-12.
Dave Fleming's the best. He came out and it's only if you're a fan, by the way, that bothers you, because I was pulling for Baylor and Dave Fleming is.
It didn't bother me. I was just like, okay, let's calm down here.
Well, it bothered me a little bit because out of halftime, he was like, this could be a huge upset. I was like, well, it's 7 points. There's 20 minutes left against the second-ranked team in the country. Yeah. But again, that's as somebody who just came to the table and is watching the game on ESPN2, I'm like, oh, wow, I want to stay tuned. But as a Baylor, somebody who might be pulling for the Bears, I'm like, don't say that. Like, don't. But Cam Carr looked great. Obi Agbum looked great. Give me your overall thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was as good offensively as they've looked all season, really, specifically in the Big 12. What I really liked about it, Pete, there was some old school basketball in that game. And what I mean by that is Cam Carr shooting twos. You see that? Yeah. Like he would come off a screen and he would shoot. He wouldn't take a dribble and go beyond the arc. He would pump fake, go in a couple steps, take a mid-range. Like that's gone from basketball almost entirely, not just talking about Baylor, but just basketball. And I'm like, I like this. Guys are taking open twos here. And I think, and from the action that I saw on the offensive side, it definitely sounded like the talk in practice was like, guys, we've got to simplify this offense. We've just got to make this more simple. And this might have been the first game of it. But it worked. They were legitimately in the 80s. This was a game, though, Pete, that was easy on the eyes. That was a fun game. It really was smooth. The under 4, this might never happen again. The under 4 media timeout in the second half came with 90 seconds left in the game. So from 4 minutes to a minute and a half, nothing. Free-flowing basketball, baby. Like, incredible to think of. And it was back and forth. It was switching on the odd number. It was tying it. There must have been 10 ties in the last, 6-8 minutes of the game alone. It was actually an awesome game. And I know you think I'm a bit of a sourpuss, but I thought Baylor was going to pull it off. I did. Once we got to 5 minutes and 4 minutes, I'm like, they're still here. Arizona gets a big play, but then Baylor, Obi Agbum answers with a 3, or Cam Carr gets to the basket. Like they're answering all the punches.
Dude, it felt like their night. It did. The way they were making shots, I was like, wow, this is and good on Arizona, right, for finding a way, because they, again, like you said, they play that old school style basketball. Well, they'll drag you down into the paint and they'll win through, some of their big men without Koa Pete, obviously. Scotty,
great point.
5 turnovers. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
not something they've struggled with all season long.
Yeah.
And I was raving about Arizona before this game because Arizona only had 5 turnovers against Houston. And this Zona defense is good. It's probably not quite Houston good, but it's pretty dang good. And for this team that's been struggling all season long, taking care of the basketball, to only have 5 turnovers, it's probably too little too late, but hey, it's something.
Who's next up for Baylor? I have them next Saturday against Utah. So last night, I can always say I was pulling for a better game to have next Saturday. Now I'm screwed. But it's senior day. That would be one thing.
Tough one Saturday. On the road in Visser territory.
Oh, at UCF.
Yeah. Coming off a huge win.
Well, maybe you can catch him sleeping, because this
Saturday night. Ooh.
This brings us to our next point. BYU Nation, dude, you're on alert now, dude. And here is why. I mentioned, and again, I am like Mr. Big 12. I back a quality product in the Big 12, whoever the team is, right? I'm always going to look for the solutions before I look for questions around or problems, I should say, around certain teams, right? Before I start to complain about it. I mentioned early in the year, and again, this is I go back. This is the human condition we're talking about. I want to impress upon the fans that there is zero judgment here on any of these young athletes. Okay, however, I felt like Rob Wright and AJ DiBonsa, kind of like cool kid vibe this year, right? I felt that, and they're dudes, and they're good dudes, and they're going to have great careers as they go forward. But the laissez-faire here and there is a little, and this is where Kevin Young, right, the great KY, is he like a little like too NBA-ish, right? Like, so last night at home against UCF, a game that started, by the way, at 11 Eastern, right? So if you like UCF and you got a job, I don't know what to tell you.
No UCF post-game show last night.
No.
UCF, man. I felt so bad. I was like, I'm looking, our game's ending at 11 Eastern time, and I'm like, they've got another East Coast team playing? Like, what is going on here?
And I'll dip back into my days when I was abusing alcohol and drugs. The only people that were excited for that game are with drug and alcohol problems, if you're a UCF fan, because you're like, 11 o'clock. I can take this into, tomorrow or whatever. That's like a lot of fun. If you like to party and like to stay up all night and take illicit drugs, like that UCF start time was for you. It wasn't for me. And apparently, even though they were playing at home, it wasn't for BYU. The cool kid vibe, right? I'll go back to that, and I don't want to live here. But with Richie Saunders now out of this lineup, I think it presents a bit of an issue from a little thing standpoint, right? Like, is Utah or BYU, on the floor, are they going to be able to do all the little things right that it takes to win basketball games in the Big 12 and in the NCAA tournament? Like, it does not matter how much talent you have right now. Of course, I shouldn't say it matters, of course, but we're getting into the part of the season where not only does the ball have to bounce your way, God rewards honest effort, not wishful thinking. Like in life and on the basketball court, like you've got to do your little part in order for the ball to bounce your way. If you don't do that, you're not going to get any of the breaks. And we're seeing that from BYU. I didn't watch the game. Okay. I'm not sitting here talking about and I know that's ridiculous, but it started at 11. It ended at 1. But I did do heavy duty research and check up on it this morning. And again, I'm not here to sit like I'm an expert and I'm going to break this team down. I told you when I called the last BYU game I called, I went down on the floor. I asked Rob Wright. I said, can I call you Rob Wright? Everybody's calling you Robert Wright III. We're both from Philly. I know you go by Rob. He said, dude, no problem. He was hanging for with AJ DiBonsa, and they were kicking it. And I was like, AJ, I can't wait to watch you play. And AJ gave me like a head nod. He was super cool. But it was like, okay, like they almost too cool. And you get this laid back vibe. And then last night, effort was an issue. I've seen it in 3 different outlets and people I trust covering the sport. Friend of the show, Jay Catch, had this to say as we're going to move it along here in a minute and talk St. John's UConn, which we can't wait to do. But this was concerning. Cam, let's roll a little Jay Catch right now.
I've been watching BYU basketball games for the better part of 3 decades, and I've got to say tonight's performance by the BYU basketball team is frankly one of the most pathetic efforts I've ever seen. This is a team, after they notched the win of the season on Saturday against Iowa State, suddenly was unable to defend the 3-point line and frankly defend it all, and a rough loss to the UCF Knights. And nothing against UCF, because the Knights absolutely deserve that victory, and they look very much like a team that's a tournament lock, speaking of the NCAA tournament. But BYU, the way they played tonight, if that performance is repeated, that's a first-round exit, and that's an embarrassing first-round exit type of effort from the BYU basketball program. Kevin Young, his players, his staff, everybody involved with BYU basketball has to wear this one, and they're going to have to rebound quickly as they head out on the road for a back-to-back road set against West Virginia and Cincinnati. Don't fancy BYU's chances on the road if they play the same style of basketball over the next 2 games.
Okay, yeah, that was good enough. I mean, I felt like he was going to start to cry. That's our boy, so we had to stop it there. But that is a guy who was really right down the middle with his analysis. I know he's a BYU guy, so he's probably taking that hard. But I love Hatch, and he is right there, he's not being biased. He's just telling the truth. Those guys are not playing hard. And again, I read it from two other writers I trust last night into this morning, I should say. So BYU's got some work to do. That's concerning. All right, quick break. We're coming back, and we're breaking down St. John's and UConn. The Johnnies, 16-2 in conference road games since last year. I mean, is that even right? We're going to talk about it and get some answers. The Pete Sousa Show, presented by Slovacic's, back after this.
Hey, it's Zach Gelb. We're talking NFL and college football. Plus, we have some of the biggest interviews in sports media. You got to check out the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports, weekdays, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 p.m. Central. And make sure you subscribe to my channel, youtube.com/@Zach Gelb Show.
Save big during the Start Something New sales event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Drive a new Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $13,000 off, or choose 0% financing. Get a new Laramie Crew Cab 4-wheel drive with 3.9% financing for 72 months, plus $15,000 off MSRP. Explore in a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo, starting at $31,990. Happening now at Allen Samuels.
Come by, let's be friends.
Hi, I'm Jo from Face Theory. You're going to want to have a specific goal for your skincare routine. What do you want to achieve? Active ingredients are really strong, and if you're using too many at once, your skin can get overwhelmed. Don't overspend on products. Choose products that have scientific research behind them. At Face Theory, if you're not happy with a product, just say so, just give us a shout and we'll give you your money back, no problem.
Streamline event and appointment booking with Amelia's sleek, modern, and fully customizable booking forms. Tailor the colors, fonts, and design to match your brand and seamlessly integrate with your WordPress website. Whether it's for events or appointments, Amelia makes booking simple, stylish, and perfectly aligned with your business. Enhance your booking experience today at WPAmelia.com. That's WPAMELIA.com. Amelia.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
If you want a Boston sports show that's going to insult you as a fan and only cares about getting back at their old hosts or who Bill Belichick is dating, then keep tuning your radio. But if you want a sports show that's wicked good, wicked smart, wicked passionate, then you need the Wicked Boston Show with me, Cam Stewart. It is the only Boston sports talk show that is by the fans and for the fans. One voice in this city where the only BS is Boston sports. The Wicked Boston Show.
BadCreditLoans.com is a pioneering service provider that has carved a reputation in the financial industry for its dedication to helping individuals with bad credit secure loans. By making timely repayments, borrowers can gradually repair their credit history, thereby increasing their chances of securing better loan terms in the future. BadCreditLoans.com serves as a beacon of hope for those with bad credit. Simple, fast, and reliable loan application process. And its commitment to responsible borrowing makes it a trusted partner in the journey towards financial stability.
Getting ready for St. John's UConn tonight. You can go on your iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or you can go on YouTube and you can call up the Eye on the Storm podcast, and you will find David Berov previewing tonight's game against Utah UConn. I'm still in Big 12 world. David, man, thank you so much for taking the time to preview it here with us, dude. Welcome to the show.
What's up, Pete? Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, and so I got a blast for the past from you. I know you've been in this game a long time with St. John's. I was raised Big East kid. And when I was getting this broadcast thing going, I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I used to drive. This was 2015. I would drive to Winston-Salem. They had this bullpen, and we would do studio shows for the live broadcast. So I was the studio host at 2014, 2015 for the Mink Man and Brandon Tierney. And I used to drive Minko batshit, I think, pardon my language, because you have to produce too. And I don't know how to produce. And he'd be like, Pete, when's this? Is this sound coming now? I'd be like, oh my God, John Minko's like asking me for this. I've been like melting down. And so you're part of that.
Yeah.
It's like Camelot over there, especially with Pitino now. And what's the overall vibe check around the program? Is this as sky high as it's been? Because I know last year was a terrific year, but this year I feel like expectations are kind of being exceeded as the season goes on.
Yeah, Pete, listen, after last season, it was a dream season. It's the best season of my, 19 years as a fan. And to be at Madison Square Garden, to catch the confetti, I got a bag of confetti 15 feet away from me from that floor. That was something that I honestly didn't think I was going to see because of all of the tough years before that. And St. John's basketball didn't have a lot of success from 2000 until 2023. And then all of a sudden, Rick Pitino shows up and, well, hey, it was that easy, I guess. But in all honesty, what happened last year was such a revelation, and it was so important to the old school fans, and it helped to bridge the generation to this new group, and it infused youth into the St. John's fan base. And now, expectations were through the roof going into this year. You had a top 5 preseason team, the number 1 transfer portal class in the country. And then you get off to this rocky start and everybody's like, oh no, was it just like a flash in the pan? Did they spend all that money for nothing? But Rick Pitino said, calm down, just give it time. And well, the guy knows a thing or two about basketball.
Dude, and so do you, and you know a thing or two about St. John's and the history. I love how we can just kind of short-term it from 2000 to 2023.
Yeah.
Can you take us inside to the darkness that was being a St. John's fan during that time? I'm not trying to give you
get my therapist on the line.
From Mike Jarvis in 99, right, when they're flirting with the Final Four, and then till 2023, it was barren, and it wasn't just barren, it was ugly at times. And the reason I bring this up is because it makes right now so sweet for Johnny's fans. But just can you put into context for the average fan who doesn't really know the St. John's journey, what it was like ramping up to this season or last season?
So, I mean, you go back to when Mike Jarvis had this team rolling, and let's give credit to Fran Fraschilla before Mike Jarvis, because Mike really did a lot of work with Fran's guys. And that team that went to the Elite Eight, you start taking winning for granted back then. 99, 2000, that was incredible. And then all of a sudden, it was like the Hindenburg. And then, St. John's makes a hire in 2004 with Norm Roberts. And, great guy, local guy. They wanted to clean up the program because there were issues. And, he stayed around a little bit too long. There was like no winning whatsoever. Some talented kids, but just no winning. Steve Lavin comes in after that. You're like, okay, big name, killed it at UCLA. And he does great in his first year, but, unfortunately got sick and things just hit his speed bump. So there wasn't as much winning. Chris Mullen gets hired after that. In my opinion, that set everything back. He was just not somebody that was ready to coach, especially St. John's. I understand why they did it because it was prodigal son returns, but we've seen that don't work in college sports. It just doesn't. And that set them back. Mike Anderson gets hired after that. Mike had a winning track record in his past, but, didn't really get it done in New York. Had some talented kids, put a few kids in the NBA. Julian Champagnie right now killing it with the Spurs, but overall just not that guy. So St. John's has made mistake after mistake after mistake in the coaching hire department, and that's ultimately what leads, unfortunately, to a losing and toxic culture. But then you bring in Rick Pitino. He's got a friend named Mike Rapoli. He's got other big dollar friends. The NIL landscape comes into play, and it was a perfect marriage, and things are just completely coming together at the right time. And St. John's is fully taking advantage of it. St. John's is fully bought in to the new landscape. You know, Rick Pitino's not running away from paying players and knowing how the game is it has changed. He's embracing it. He does want the continuity factor, which hurts him. He talks about that often, but he's not running away from it. St. John's is all in, and I think that's what the success is following that kind of mindset.
Take me inside the Garden now. It's by the way, that was an amazing synopsis. If only it could have gone that quickly in real time for St. John's fans. But the Madison Square Garden, like when I was growing up, there'd be, I think there was a misperception from the average fan because of the Big East tournament and all the highlights we would see that St. John's played as many games there as they did. They only played like 5 or 6, right? Like this now. They're loading up at the Garden, and you see people like you talk. I hear other analysts nationally. It's like a freaking Knicks game when the Knicks are, playing, like you mentioned, an elite level of basketball like we've seen from St. John's. What has that environment done to create this vibe that I think now is just like spilling out over the rest of the country? But like most things, it starts in New York City.
Let's bring it to UConn. February 6th, 2026, St. John's, UConn, this year was the best atmosphere inside Madison Square Garden that I have seen in 37 years. It is the game that Rick Pitino highlighted as his favorite game ever in the Garden. And this is a guy that coached the Knicks. He was there with the Celtics. He won a Big East title there. He won a Big East conference there last year. And Rick Pitino said that was the game that stands out to him. That's what's happened. St. John's has become, like the Knicks, a thing to do. And in New York, that's always been the tough part, man. How do you get the fan, right? People talk about it. New York fans or sports fans are fair weather and fickle. If you're not winning, they're not going to pay attention. Well, the Johnnies have been winning, and people want to show up. Last year, there was a handful of sellouts to end the year. It was the hottest ticket in town. Prices for that UConn game 2-3 weeks ago were like $6,000. They're Knicks tickets. Now, look, St. John's has to keep winning. If St. John's doesn't do that, it's going to be tough. But Ed Cull, the AD at St. John's, Rick Pitino, everybody's on board playing more games at the Garden. And when you win like this and you can pack that Garden, there's nothing better than seeing a sea of red at 33rd and 7th in New York City. Amazing moment in time right now. When you talk about Mike Rapoli, did he go to St. John's? Yes, he did. Class of 1991. So that is amazing there in itself. That's the power of Pitino. Like, this guy's been lying in wait all this time, and you get a personality, you get a guy like Pitino, and it goes just in perfect unison with this NIL. It's the perfect marriage to put a team like this together. When we talk about the team itself, Zuby Ejiofor obviously playing his way, possibly player of the year in the Big East. Yep. Tonight, they take on UConn. UConn's going to have to get bigger in this game. I think they'll try to, because that felt like their Achilles heel in the last one. You know way more about this stuff than I do as far as St. John's and UConn is concerned. When you look at this game, how important is a Zuby Ejiofor, and how important is UConn finding a way to compete down low with St. John's? Well, that was the story of the first game. St. John's front court has been what's driven them all season. In that first game, it was Zuby Ejiofor, it was Dylan Mitchell, and it was Bryce Hopkins putting it all together. They accounted for 50 points in that first game, and they had no answer, UConn did, for Bryce Hopkins, who had 14 and 6. Dylan Mitchell had 15, 6, 2 assists, and Zuby had arguably one of the games of the year in the Big East with 21 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. Tarris Reed can really play. He's one of the better big men in the Big East, and he was getting schooled by Zuby Ejiofor. Now, you said it, and I agree with you. Zuby Ejiofor is the Big East player of the year. He was the preseason player of the year, and he's playing like it now. He is leading St. John's. UConn's biggest question actually is not, I think, going to come from Tarris Reed, because I think he's going to be able to give them what they need. The big question for UConn in this game is, can Silas Demery protect the ball? Silas Demery against St. John's in the first game turned the ball over 9 times. He had a good game scoring-wise, but he turned the ball over 9 times, and that was one of the biggest keys to St. John's winning the game. Live ball turnovers from the point guard, Dylan Darling. stole the ball from him a bunch of times. He's somebody that's been playing amazing for St. John's. So Silas has to protect the ball. St. John's has been the catalyst to his 2 worst games of his career. Last year, St. John's played him when he was at Georgia, and he turned the ball over 10 times in that game. He came to UConn, turned the ball over 9 times. So that's going to be huge in this game. Can St. John's continue to wreak havoc on the point guard? Can they pressure? Can they force those turnovers? Something else to watch for. UConn had a huge amount of issues trying to get the ball in bounds on makes from St. John's, as well as just any kind of turnover. That was a huge point of emphasis. There was about 15 almost 5-second calls. So watch for that tonight as well.
Hey, David, when you look at Dylan Mitchell, he's a guy I think that fits this so perfectly. And the reason I have interest in him is because calling his games when he was at Texas and at Cincinnati, and then seeing him now again in a situation where I just feel like he's perfect for St. John's. McDonald's All-American, he's got the skill set and the athletic ability to take you out of the gym. But what has he done for this team as far as like a guy who does the little things and just really knows his role? I feel like he's perfect for this team.
Dylan Mitchell said 2 things to me in the preseason. He said, 1, Texas and Cincinnati played too slow for his vibe, so he was super excited to come to St. John's and play fast. And then he's said a bunch of times that he wished he came to St. John's sooner. Why? Because Rick Pitino has allowed him to be this Swiss Army knife. He gets the ball off the rebound. He's on the ball. He's getting to play some point forward. That has changed everything for St. John's. It's not necessarily putting him in that point forward spot. Rick Pitino has said that just getting him more minutes has opened everything. If you look at his minutes early on in the season compared to this 13-game winning streak, they're not double, but significantly more. He changes everything because on defense, he can switch 1 through 5. He can guard your point guard. He can guard your center. He is the first guy that's going to be able to get that run out steal and go down the entire court and dunk it on 2 dribbles. He's the guy that does everything. And he's not a guy that's going to hunt his shot, so he's not going to take the ball away from a guy like Isaiah Sellers who needs it to shoot the 3, Zuby who needs his shot, Bryce Hopkins who needs his shot. He is the most quintessential glue guy that you can ask for, and he is somebody that's been absolutely killing it. And St. John's' big reason for how successful they have been through this 13-game winning streak starts with Dylan Mitchell.
Yeah, that's amazing. He really is the quintessential teammate when you look at the fact that he doesn't call for much offensively. He's there when you need him, per se, attacking the offensive glass, and then on defense, he'll shut you down, and he gets out in transition. I think you sum that up perfectly. When we look at the environment tonight, as a St. John's guy, 16-2 since last year on the road for the Johnnies, amazing. But now you're going into Hartford. It's a bloodthirsty environment. You got a bunch of pissed off UConn fans. I don't know why they're always so pissed, but they're pissed, and they find reasons to be upset, which is one of, I guess, part of the secret sauce. But what is that environment like for St. John's to go in and navigate tonight?
Well, Pete, let's set the stage, right? I think they're opening up the arena a little bit early tonight for the fans. They've got like $3 beer. It's going to be a madhouse. A few games ago, Dan Hurley is calling out the fans saying, I need better. You're not going to have a problem tonight. That arena is going to be full of psychos raring to go. They got revenge on their mind. But Pete, look at what's on the line today. St. John's has won 13 straight games. UConn has won 26 straight games in Hartford at the XL Center and now the People's Bank Arena. St. John's is 8-0 on the road this year in the Big East. And the last team to beat UConn at the People's Bank Arena, a.k.a. the XL Center, is St. John's on January 15th, 23. It is everything you could want and ask for a game of this magnitude that's going to have seeding implications for the NCAA tournament, that has Big East Conference title implications, and then potentially sets up a 3rd game on Saturday night in New York City at the Garden for the Big East tournament title. I mean, it's perfect. It's cinema, as the kids say.
I love how you talk about the numbers, how they stack up. It brings up the ultimate announcer cliche. Something's got to give, baby.
One streak's got to end, right?
When you look at the game, St. John's is a 4.5-point underdog. What do you like as far as, let's say somebody's got an interest in, putting a couple shekels on this game.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you see this one going?
I said this yesterday. In good faith, and this is not, I mean, you could say it's me being a St. John's homer, but like they've won 13 games in a row, and the way that they've played has been really impressive. They just held Creighton to 52 points, and Creighton right before that went into UConn and beat UConn. I don't know how you can, with confidence, put money on St. John's losing this game. If I'm the betting man, give me the points. Give me St. John's, sprinkle a little bit on that money line because that's the bet. Otherwise, UConn has to prove that they can beat this St. John's team. They got to prove that they can adjust to their physicality and handle their physicality because that's the word that Dan Hurley has kept throwing around. I don't know if we can handle the physicality. We're going to have to do it other ways. Rick Pitino thinks they're going to play a little bigger. We'll see. But again, Pete, if I'm a betting man, my money goes to St. John's or not at all.
How about the coaching matchup that you touched on? That's something you could really – the game has enough going on as it is, but if you run out of stuff, you can sell these two coaches going up against one another.
Yeah.
The personalities, the styles, the passion, the pedigree. When you look at evaluating both of these coaches as a fan for St. John's and also somebody who works so closely around the team and is, a journalist for that covers St. John's, where's your level of concern facing a Danny Hurley team?
My level of concern with a Danny Hurley team is always, can we handle the offense? Their offensive sets are second to none in college basketball. Luke Murray and Danny Hurley have the most complicated, intricate, tough to guard offense, which at times would present problems for St. John's because they would just be chasing. And that's where the worry comes in. Can St. John's handle that kind of offense from them? They're incredible. They're well coached. They are disciplined. But the difference is this year is that they've been turning the ball over a lot. So that's why my first point with Silas Demery went there. As far as this coaching matchup goes, you got two of the greatest coaches of all time, two of three coaches in college basketball right now that have won 2 national titles. They don't like each other. Like, don't listen to this narrative. We're it's fine. We're cordial. No, they don't like each other. It is what it is. If I'm trying to get where you're going and I'm trying to hang banners from my ceiling, I'm not going to like you either. I get it. And there's tension. Rick is not crazy about how Danny acts on the sidelines. I think all the fans for St. John's hate the way that he acts on the sidelines and think the ref give him way too much leeway. But he's one of the main figures in this sport. He is entertaining as all hell. He's good for a quote. So is Rick Pitino. And as far as the dynamic on the sidelines, I mean, you can't ask for two better.
We love it. We love it. We love it. And it is so New York and it's so big time, even though the game's in Hartford. Was there a particular, and I know the activity and some of the, how verbose, Danny Hurley can be on the sidelines, but was there a particular moment or something that brought these two or separated these two and sort of ramped up that rivalry?
Last year, even 2 years ago, there's been moments at the Garden, specifically where like Dan was pissed off at a few of fans who happened to be Rick's friends that were close by, and I think tried to get some guys kicked out. That probably didn't make Rick too happy. And again, it's just that being so demonstrative, always complaining to the refs, and that's Danny's style. But like, listen, I think a big reason why Dan didn't leave for the NBA is because he knows he can't get away with that in the NBA. He's not just going to change, Leopard doesn't change their spots. So it's not like, Danny was going to go coach LeBron and all of a sudden be quiet as a church mouse. Can you imagine him blowing up at LeBron James and LeBron just like looking at him? Like, what are you going to do there? But I think that there's some of that there. It's just that tension in the Big East. It's good old Big East basketball. We talk about the history of the Big East, and it was built on just these personalities of coaches, from Carnesecca to Thompson to Boeheim to Rolly Massimino, and the list goes on and on and on. That's what made the Big East, and now you've got some of these personalities back, and that's what makes this conference so amazing.
We had Jay Wright on yesterday talking about, when he was an assistant for Rolly, that was the time when they had 6 fouls a game. It was a freaking bloodbath. All right, so let's get to your my final question for you. I want to let you out of here. You got a super busy day. Talk to me about St. John's and their ceiling this season. How far can this team go? For somebody that's been following St. John's and covering them for the better part of his life, where do you see this team ascending this year?
So right now, I think they're comfortably on the 5 seed line. What happens tonight against UConn is huge because that could potentially bump them to a 4. If they get to a 4, that means they're going to Philly. That's going to be huge for proximity, and that's going to be important. we don't even have to talk about that. We're talking about ceiling.
But by the way, that's for a second.
It is huge tonight.
That's huge.
Yeah.
What's
important for St. John's is they need to continue playing this defensively, and they kind of need the law of averages to come together. One thing that St. John's is really struggling with, and look for it tonight, St. John's has not been able to hit the three, but they have not been able to hit the three at home. On the road, they're a much better three-point shooting team. Why? I have no idea. It doesn't really make sense. They're 38.5% from three on the road, which is pretty good. I think tonight you see that win the game for St. John's, and I think that is what could potentially carry them into a tournament run. To start the year, St. John's obviously hit a bunch of speed bumps, lost to Iowa State by 1, but hey, that's a top 5 team in the country. They lost by 1 back then. Now, you look at it, they lost to Kentucky. They played really terribly. You lost to Auburn, and, that was tough. Alabama had one of the best backcourts in the country. That gave St. John's fits, but that was early in the year. They're battle-tested. They've got their calluses now. And you just put together this huge run in the Big East. Hopefully that continues. The ceiling is going to be the three-point shot, and if they can get some guard play that's consistent besides Dylan Darling. I'm not worried about that front court. That front court is one of the best in the nation. You're going to be talking about that front court with Florida and a few of these other ones when it's all said and done this year. The guards have to step up. Ian Jackson is one of the most highly touted transfers in the country. He has not played well enough this year. Josan Sanin has played better, but still needs to get hit going. Ozzie Sellers has to hit that three. He's one of the best shooters in the country, but he's been in a slump. I think the three-point shot has to start falling. It has on the road, so see if that actually propels St. John's through the rest of the year. I think the Johnnies can certainly make a run. I think they're built to get to the Sweet 16 at the very least. Let's hope so. They've got the makeup. They're battle-tested. They got the coach. Let's see what happens on Wednesday to get it started.
David Berov, dude. Eye on the Storm. That's the show. Check it out on YouTube. Check it out wherever you get podcasts. An amazing job, dude. There's something different about New York guys. I love you, dude. You really bring it. I would love to get a chance to chat with you maybe after the Big East tournament as we get ramping up for the NCAA.
Absolutely. Anytime. You got your friends are my friends. Minko's been on the show. I love him. I see him all the time. Brandon Tierney is my guy. I'm sure you know Mike Francesa and the whole crew there. So those are all my people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Minko might remember me as the guy who gave him a heart attack a couple times. But yeah, I'm
going to text Minko right when we get off.
All right, man. Take it easy. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
David,
Pete.
for joining me, dude. Man, that's great stuff. I mean, David Berov, talking about the Big East, that really gives me goosebumps. I've talked to you guys, guy from Philly, Villanova guy, to see the Big East back and to be so prominent. Yeah, you look at it. Okay, right now they might only get 3 teams in the NCAA tournament. 2 of them are the most powerful in college basketball. Tonight's game, a reason to watch college basketball. Make sure you check it out. Our good friends at Peacock will be on the call. Obviously not me because I'm sitting here. I'm always, they gave me the Creighton game. So I had Creighton Seton Hall in Omaha, which speaks to, by the way, the power of St. John's beating the hell out of that Creighton team because they're pretty good and they can score some points. St. John's headed in the right direction. I cannot wait to watch this game tonight. Thanks to David Berov. Make sure you check him out. Eye on the Storm is the podcast. Pete Sousa Show presented by Slovaceks. We'll be back right after this.
Looking for football talk without the fluff? It's Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell, a former NFL quarterback breaking down the game from the inside, plus real conversations about sports, leadership, life, and everything in between. No hot takes for clicks, just honest analysis, strong opinions, and stories you won't hear anywhere else. Football talk and more, the way it's supposed to be. Subscribe now to Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell on YouTube.
It doesn't matter if your investment budget is small or big. All you need is Benzinga Pro and its powerful news alerts, price tracking, and portfolio monitoring. Subscribe now, and we'll skyrocket your portfolio today.
Experience with the Bosley MD hair regrowth kit was amazing. It was easy to use. It let me take off my hat. I could go in public and have my picture taken and feel normal again.
BosleyMD.com.
Join us at golfpartnerusa.com and discover why we're the trusted choice for golf lovers worldwide. That's GOLFPARTNERUSA.com. Golf Partner. Experience the future of secure private cloud storage with Internix. Protect your files with end-to-end encryption, ensuring your data stays private and accessible only to you. That's INTERNXT.com today.
Apollo Neuro is a new kind of wearable that helps your body recover from stress, that helps you calm down and feel better. You sleep better, and you can get back to being yourself. Learn more at apolloneuro.com.
Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. NordVPN.com. That's NORDVPN.com.
Our patented handles were launched in 2018. We continue to push the boundaries of strength training. Join us in making your training more natural and effective. Visit Engels90.com to learn more and revolutionize your workout.
Dive into adventure with Scuba.com, your ultimate destination for top-tier scuba and snorkeling gear. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, trust Scuba.com for the best in diving equipment and expert guidance. Explore now at Scuba.com. That's SCUBA.com. Scuba.com. At Fullwell, we bring together the expertise of registered dietitians, MDs, and OBGYNs to give you the best fertility support. Fullwell, your trusted partner on your fertility journey. Visit us at FullwellFertility.com. Experience the perfect blend of exquisite craftsmanship and life-changing technology with Gevi. Every product is built with precision, featuring specialized parts that ensure durability, efficiency, and safety. Upgrade your everyday with Gevi. Visit us at GEVI.com to discover more.
It's the Pete Sousa Show.
With San, owning iconic furniture no longer requires paying a premium. With over 15,000 satisfied customers worldwide, we've proven that high-quality furniture doesn't have to come with a high price tag. Explore our collection today at san.com.
At Covers & All, we've revolutionized protective solutions with cutting-edge, customizable covers, tarps, and curtains. We deliver premier protection at affordable prices and express shipping. Visit coversandall.com today for the perfect fit, guaranteed to last.
Hi, my name is Mike Lacey. I'm with Beyond the Game, a new podcast to the Rogue Media Network. Just when you thought you'd had a little bit too much about BYU, here we are to provide you even a little bit more. I, as part of the BYU group, am grateful that we're part of the Big 12 and really grateful that we're part of the Rogue Media Network. Thank you.
Pete Sousa Show is back. How about my man David? He hit it out of the park. And I was just talking with Garrett here. Hold on as I call something up. I was just talking with Garrett here, 365 sports producer extraordinaire. And we were mentioning how like guests like that are just the best. Like, and I'm saying it now to Chris Visser, like we need to huddle up and you know, and Cam, you can be a part of this too as well. God forbid. Where we find like that is so interesting and compelling, and truly from a reveal the curtain, like take off the veneers for the like Pete Sousa Show and podcast world, like those guys drive a lot of interest, and because they're interesting, and they have these fan bases that are rabid, more guys like that. Now, I will say, you know, David Berov is probably special because he's talented, but at the same time, like that was a delight for me. Maybe it was the Big East in me. I do want to talk a little bit about something I saw this morning. There's so much to cover, man. I could be here all day, especially on a day like this. I slept 8 hours last night. I really just that was a great night's sleep that I needed. I've been in Waco the past 2 days, and you know. It's, by the way, I had to go to the bathroom when I got to the studio, Garrett. I had to do a number 2. And out of respect for John Morris, I went over to the hotel. And so I go to the bathroom to go over to the hotel. And God's got his hands on this whole deal. I walk into the hotel and I see my neighbor, Lorena, married to Raphael. They used to live next to me at my old spot here in North Waco, which is kind of sketch, but I love those guys. And I'm talking to Lorena. She's working. She works. She's one of the cleaning people. I think she runs the cleaning at the Cambria over there. So now I got to stop over and see Raphael and Lorena. I hadn't seen her since I moved last November. So looking forward to catching up with her. But you see, respect for John Morris and Garrett will get you delightful things, right? If you respect people, then you'll find yourself in good situations. I'm in a good situation when I see a tweet like I did earlier this morning from Awful Announcing. And it was an announcement, the Untold documentaries, which, let's face it, in the world of documentaries, this is not 60 Minutes. It's not HBO Real Sports. But there have been a bunch of these documentaries that I have watched that I have found absolutely riveting. Off the top of my head, okay? Hope Solo was one that I just absolutely loved, and that was an Untold on her. There have been a bunch of other good ones. They did one on the Arizona State guy who he grew up in King McClure's neighborhood, way older than King, but he was on the take for gambling. He fixed games at Arizona State. That was an amazing one. There's a couple others that have stunk, and this annoys me.
That was Headache, by the way.
Headache. Yes, the dude's name was Headache. Yeah,
which is a baller nickname. Yeah,
Cam, what are some of the other? Honestly, they're escaping.
But Manti Te'o was a big one. That whole story.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Johnny Manziel had one. Brett Favre had one. Yeah. And I will say, I think we've talked about this before. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them, like I said with the Manziel one in particular, I was like, this should have been called Told. This was not. It was just about, Johnny Manziel made a lot of money and partied in college. It's like, we knew that.
We're all screwed up going into that. You are a super fan. They're not going to teach you much new. If you or I learned something new in that, it's really a big deal. But what it is it's just a trip down memory lane with one of your buddies who you feel like you kind of grew up with. Like, oh, look at Johnny. That's right. I forgot about that. I forgot
if it's called Untold, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're right.
These two that you're about to talk about, I find that these will be very fascinating.
These will be fascinating. So I have an insight on one of them. So first of all, the Untold, I'll just read you the Netflix release. Untold is back with 4 new films premiering weekly, starting March 31st. The first 2 are going to be the death and life of Lamar Odom. Lamar revisits the infamous night at the Love Ranch that nearly cost him his life. Remember, he went to the Bunny Ranch in 2015 in Vegas, and he almost bought the farm at the ranch, but they kept him alive. And he was on, as somebody who's got a lot of experience with drugs, like back in the day, he was on some stuff that I don't even find the least bit alluring. I forget what it was, but it was something. It was like, I think he was on like Kratom. He was on like a ton of Kratom. Like when I got sober, you're living you go to a rehab and then you go to a halfway house and these guys are relapsing on Kratom. I'm like, what is Kratom, dude? And they're like, oh, it's kind of like store-bought. Andrew, you know what Kratom is? No, good for you. That was a test. You passed. Yes, people are talking about, I'm like, people are relapsing on Kratom. I'm like, guys, it doesn't seem to me like the juice is worth the squeeze there. Like, what happens with Kratom? And they would describe it. I'd be like, yeah, that's like, don't do that anymore. But yeah, so I think Lamar was on a lot of Kratom and other stuff too. I could be wrong, but that is something that I'm dying to hear about because Lamar is an amazing story. And honestly, it's unfortunate that we're talking about it right now because the guy just relapsed. I think, again, he went back to treatment. And so there is a real heavy weight. It's just so serious. Like I talk about sobriety like it's a picnic. And it's not because, people go back out, they drink, and then they die. So you're really happy if you're in Lamar Odom's camp that he found himself some help and he is in a facility where he can get all the help he needs. For me, that's what it took 14 years ago. I go to treatment, everything changed. I was very lucky. My one thing for Lamar would be, if we're talking about the halfway house situation, he's got to do an extended care. If Lamar is asking me to be his sponsor, that's what he needs to do, right? Because if you ask me to be your sponsor, now I can take your inventory. And you got to go to an extended care, Lamar, because clearly the 28 days ain't doing it. So and when you go to an extended care, like 6 months to a year, I'm talking, like maybe a year and 6 months, maybe 18 months, dude. And what you look at that is it's 18 months for the rest of your life because your odds of staying the course go up significantly the longer you're in that treatment situation. Much like me, when I was in, you go to rehab, then you go to an extended care place. I was like institutionalized for 6 months, pretty much. I mean, you could dress it up and say he went to treatment and then an extended care facility, but certainly felt like institutions to me. Just saying. So you got to get humble, Lamar. Go ahead, make it happen. So obviously I have a lot of interest around that. The second one actually is not a real popular sport, but I think this is going to be good. It's called Chessmates, and this is around, remember the cheating scandal from 2024, the guy Magnus Carlsen and Hans Niemann. That was a big deal. And I know that because Howard Stern likes chess and he would talk about it. Now, here's one that I have a little close personal relationship to. Jailblazers, okay? This was, and I'll read you the quick skinny on this. This debuts April 14th. When these things, I am such a prisoner of the moment. When I see April 14th, it feels like forever that I got to wait, which annoys me. And maybe someday we'll all get successful enough on this show where they'll send us this stuff before. And no, Chris, don't send a message to Netflix saying that we need these. It's not that important. Because that's how Visser operates. I think we got a Richmond football helmet coming because that guy sees the cat in the tree every day. And he called up the University of Richmond, told him about the show, and they're sending us a helmet. So there you go. I played at Richmond, by the way, or kind of did. We'll talk about that later. All right, Jailblazers, directed by Sasha Gardner. It features Rasheed Wallace, Damon Stoudemire, and Bonzi Wells. Well, right away, I'm in, okay? Because those guys, Rasheed is going to tell it like it is. They revisit the early 2000s Blazers, a team that reached the Western Conference Finals and spent the rest of the decade being better known for arrests than basketball. When I was working for the 76ers, I've told this story before, but it's been a very long time. I was still I was floating through life, like trying to mask an addiction. So I moved from Charlotte to Philly. I don't have a car. The people at the Sixers hire me. They're like, you don't have a car? I'm like, no. They're like, that could be an issue. Like the arena is here. The city of Philadelphia is here. When I moved home, my parents live here, right? So my first road trip with the team, we go to New Jersey. We get our asses kicked. We come back home. It's like a bus trip, right? So we get back home on Saturday after the game, and I don't have a car. So I'm going to call a cab. So I walk to the front of the Wells Fargo Center, was the Wachovia Center there, and I call for a cab. Now, all the guys who are on the team, they're just whipping out, like Andre Iguodala, right? Like just whipping by me in a Bentley or, the nicest of cars, right? Nobody. And these guys know me, but they're not giving me a ride. One car slows down, rolls down the window, and he's jogging his memory for my name. He's like, I'm a PR guy. Like he should probably know who I am. Pete. I'm like, yeah, what's up, Coach Cheeks? He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm waiting for a cab. He's like, waiting for a cab? I'm like, yeah. He's like, where are you going? I'm like, well, my parents, I'm staying with them until I find a place because I had just started. I was like, Villanova. He's like, Villanova, get in the car. So I get in the head coach's car and we're driving home and we start to talk about a lot of stuff. But I wanted to talk about the Jailblazers. And he couldn't have been more candid without really putting anybody out there. But I was like, what was that like? He was like, man, and Coach Cheek swore a lot. So I won't swear here. And man, every MF in time you turn around, another MFer's getting arrested. Somebody's fighting dogs. Somebody's smoking weed. So he tells me this one story. They played the Seattle Sonics in a preseason game. And so Mo was like, hey, you guys, if you want to drive back, you can drive back. So the Blazers are on the team bus. The guys who, didn't take their own cars, the Blazers are on the team bus going back, and they drive by this gigantic Hummer that's pulled over on the side of the road, and outside of it is like Bonzi Wells and Rasheed Wallace. They got busted for smoking weed on the way back. And Coach Cheeks is like, oh my gosh. And so it was a tough go. I remember Quintel Woods was a guy who was fighting dogs. I know Ruben Patterson got in serious trouble. There was a lot of stuff. And I think that they were unfairly labeled the Jailblazers, to the point where they probably earned it in the moment, but it really had legs. And we should actually talk to Corey Dickman about this because he's like, by the way, Corey, and I'll say this before we wrap up, Corey is a psycho Portland Trailblazers fan. Like this guy owns this thing, right? Like, I know he and John Villade have meetings, how we're taking over the world. And like, there's an executive arm to all this. And you feel really good about that because John's the man. And I love Corey. But then Corey's like, I'm like, yeah, like I'll talk to him and be like, yeah, I was up writing for like Blazers Illustrated till like 2:00 last night. He's got 2 kids, right? Like, he's running this thing. He's all over the place. And he's a beat reporter for like Blazers Online for no other reason than he loves the Portland Trailblazers. Like, out of his mind loves them. And I still think the guy, if he could have picked one thing to do, it would have been a general manager of a basketball team. And clearly, it's neat to see people still so in deep, you know, like Corey could easily start up a show if he had the time. Apparently he does, to write late night Blazers articles, but to do a show here about the Trailblazers. Certainly, if our boy David Berov can do it. By the way, Berov is awesome. Corey can do it. And by the way, this is pretty cool. A nice message. David just texted me, that's Chris Visser, and said, thank you. And he would love to be on with you again. Thanks, Chris. And thank you, David. And here's just a couple things, some housekeeping. Scotty B brings up a great point. BYU may even lose first round of the NCAA tournament. They aren't any better than a Sweet 16 team. It sucks. Without Richie Saunders, they might not be. And this is an opportunity for Rob Wright to take the reins of this team and be the alpha. We'll find out if he can do that, because in the Big 12, you have a similar situation. And by no means do I want to compare A.J. DeBonsa and the fact that he plays his ass off every night, or at least is out there every night. Apparently, there's some questions about the effort, according to our buddy out in Provo, Utah, Jake Hatch, on Locked On Cougars. But there's an issue with the maybe overall, like who's the governor of that team now with Richie Saunders out? It's got to be Rob Wright. Rob's got to step up. He's a little older. He's the point guard. He's got grit, a little more grizzled. And at Kansas, they've actually found a way to make it work, even with all the Darren Peterson nonsense. Like being out at Oklahoma State last week, calling that Kansas game, being on the ground floor, watching Kansas have a shoot around. It's very clear that Trey White and Melvin Council are the alphas on that team. They lead that team. When Darren Peterson's hot, it's like, hey, let's everybody else get out of the way, let him cook, right? But it's great. Look, it's great when your best player is your hardest worker, okay? It's great. That does not happen, but like 10% of the time. So you need another alpha to step up and take the keys and say, hey, man, I'm putting this in the ignition. We're going to ride. Like, trust me, you're going to be the featured player, man. But, like, I got to drive Batman around tonight. Like, you ain't driving. And I think that that's a key for BYU. Rob Wright needs to step up. I think they also need a couple guys to step up. The one guy's name, Kennard, needs to step up. Kennard Davis has got to step up and play better. Last night, I just checking his box line. It did not look good. So, yeah, BYU needs some help. They need guys to step up. Cam Stewart. Oh, yeah, I got to do one thing. Hold on, Cam.
I thought you were about to get into another Luke Kennard discussion.
No.
Now that you know that he plays in the NBA. Played the Celtics the other night.
Yeah, he sucks. Oh, by the way, what do you make of LeBron and what's going on there? Like, real quick, like that's like fodder for morning show stuff. We're thoughtful here, so we don't just like go like to the bottom of the barrel right away. But like, apparently him and Luka had like an issue last night getting off a game-winning shot.
I mean, who would have thunk it, right? Like, who would have thunk it? You know what I mean? Like, these are two complete alphas. And like, it's the point where we're like, well, that's just what the NBA is. Like, you have all your superstars are selfish. You know what I mean? You kind of have to be like that. That Lakers team's got a lot of problems.
They do.
A lot of problems.
And it's about
again, like, not surprising.
And it's about to get really interesting because with the shift, especially once college basketball ends, like there'll be so much noise and BS and crap around that team that we'll find out. I mean, they could implode. I really believe that. Like, I don't think LeBron, I don't know. We'll see. We'll just have to see. I feel like there's a rift with him and the organization, sort of. Yeah. And that
everyone's recommending that book that came out a couple months ago. It's not Three Ring Circus. That's the Perlman book.
Give it to me.
No, it's I got to look it up, but it's LeBron's Lakers and the drama there and all the behind the scenes stuff. I'm looking it up now, Pete.
No, I got to look it up. Like, what are you going to get back to us?
A Hollywood Ending, the dreams and drama. Like, I'm sorry I didn't memorize the name of a book I hadn't read, Pete.
Well, I was just worried you weren't going to look it up. All right, go ahead. So,
I'm just right here, man.
Go ahead. Hollywood Ending.
That's it. Hollywood Ending. The dreams and drama behind LeBron's Lakers.
Who wrote it?
Yaron Weitzman.
All right.
Weitzman.
Weitzman.
Could be Weitzman. Could be Weitzman.
Yeah, that's, I told you I got the Halberstam Breaks of the Game audiobook.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I need to listen to that if I'm going to have any credibility talking about sports journalism. Like, I've never actually finished that book. My brother read it. It was in our house. I never read it. It wasn't quite salacious enough for me. Like, I was talking to Perry Clark when I called a game with him, and we were talking about Jim Valvano. And, they coached against each other when Perry was an assistant at Georgia Tech for Bobby Cremins. And I made the mistake of being like, let me tell you something, Perry. When I was in grade school, I read this book, Personal Fouls. And let me just tell you, it was a hatchet job on NC State. I mean, and I know now that, like, I'm already drifting because Perry's looking at me like, who knows how much they cheated at Georgia Tech, by the way. Okay. And I'm like, oh man, like everybody on that NC State team, because we were talking about Andy Kennedy, because Andy Kennedy, the coach of UAB, was a freshman on like the 86, 87 NC State team that the book was about. I mean, the book was talking about, Chris Washburn is walking into your dorm room, looking at Cam Stewart and being like, I'm going to take this stereo system. Thanks a lot. And like walking out. You don't even know him or whatever. Like, guys were smoking weed in the locker room before games. Like, it got pretty crazy, allegedly. But I brought that up to Perry, and he's just like, yeah, so whatever. Like, I was like, yeah, that wasn't smart.
All right. Yeah.
But it brings me back to, I've always been, like most people that are about as smart as a fly, I've always been like driven towards like, the salacious stuff. And Breaks of the Game is a little bit more, just a little slower. So I got to get into a little more.
Someone says it's the greatest sports book ever.
Yeah. Have you ever read it? I think we talked about this.
No. I read The Game by Ken Dryden, which was the other one that Simmons says is the greatest sports book ever. So, have
you ever read Ball 4?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah.
Should I read it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because it's just from a bygone time. Like, it's something that was so shocking. It's like the Beatles, man. Like, it was so different at the time. Yeah. And now it's like, well, yeah, we kind of knew that was happening because it's been happening for 50 years, 60 years. But it is interesting. There's some weird stories in there. Yeah.
I'm doing my best Mosley right now because a couple things I want to roll through with you. Did you see that Joe Alexander guy? What he posted on the I guess it's the interweb. Did you see that?
An internet post somewhere. No, I've not seen this.
So Joe Alexander, who played, he was a lottery pick, not a lottery pick. Oh yeah, he was a lottery pick out of West Virginia. He played for Bob Huggins, and he eventually ended up he was out of the NBA in like 4 years, not even, right? Picked by the Bucks, and he goes and plays overseas for like 15 years, a pretty good career, I guess. But he had this post on Instagram talking about what is the key to being a successful player in the pros, which I'm like, are we talking NBA or overseas? But let's not split hairs. And he basically was like, to what you're saying, like the Jim Bowden book, Ball 4, was so revolutionary at that time, right? Like, and that's what this guy, Joe Alexander, was saying. Like, people watch other players and they try to model that other player, and you get reps in trying to be like Kobe or whoever. He's like, the guys who break through and are amazing, no rules apply to them. They change the game. Like, and it's almost like Cam Stewart as a talk show host, or Pete Sousa as a talk show host, or a play-by-play guy. Like, it was a great message. The reason I saw it is because All the Smoke guys put it up. And it does let you know, like, you've got to do your own thing. Like, you've got to be your thing, right? Like Jim Bowden did with that book. Like, you can't be afraid. Something different is going to feel weird at the time. I mean, he was ostracized after that book, correct?
Big time, like full on blackballed. Yeah.
Yeah. Was the spaceman mad at him? Your guy?
Is the spaceman really mad at anybody? I don't know. But no, he was like full on ostracized in baseball, man. Like it was. It's tough to compare to it today, right? Like, because we think of like ostracized athletes, and you think of, like Colin Kaepernick, but he wasn't hated by his teammates, by the players, by the people that are in,
it's almost like a Canseco type deal.
Yeah, it's a better one. Yeah. And even steroids, like I know Canseco was even beyond that, right? He was also a D-bag. But like the steroids guys, like that was divisive amongst players. Some were like, some were like, I'm doing it too. And some were like, I can't believe this is happening. These guys should be kicked out of the game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of and Jim Bouton was almost universal of like, we either hate that you're talking about us doing this or we just don't talk about this.
What was the biggest issue with that book? The most shocking thing that you can remember that comes to you right away that was revealed in that book and pissed a lot of people off? Anything you remember?
I mean, just the players having a woman in every city, I mean, that was kind of the big thing, was just wasn't talked about. It's kind of like, it's kind of like how your family members know you're in the mafia, right? They just kind of know. You don't talk about it, right? You don't open the books or anything or take your kid to work day. That's kind of what it was. It was don't ask, don't tell about, who's in what city for all these different players.
You don't, man. You don't. I mentioned road trips earlier with NBA teams. I was hazed to the point where I almost cried on my first real road trip. Not a lie.
And that's why you do that to me now. I get it.
They were like, sit in this seat. And it was Mo Cheeks' seat. And he's like, what are you doing in my seat? Like, get the fuck out of my seat. Pardon my language. And I was like, okay. So I get out of his seat. And like, they sent me to a copier that didn't work because I had to print off these stats. It was rough, man. They were calling me Spider, like from Goodfellas. They were making me do stuff. And but then this one guy grabbed me and was just like, you know what happens here? Like, you don't say anything about it. I was like, oh, I know. He's like, no. Like, I'm very serious. Like, like a guy gave me that talk. Like, when you're on the road, like, it's just like, if you want this to go smoothly for you, you won't say a word about any of the stuff you see. I was like, I got it. And then I turned out to be the biggest problem on the road. So I got fired.
And now you talk for a living.
Yeah. Anything else you can?
Nothing big from me.
Boston.
I thought this was
what are we doing? Wicked Boston.
Yeah, we do have a Wicked Boston show today. I'm going to talk about why Jaylen Brown can't win the MVP, even though he probably has a pretty good case to win the MVP with what the Celtics are doing this year. And Pete, tap into the Pete Sousa a little bit. Should the Patriots trade for AJ Brown? Everyone says they'd love for them to trade AJ Brown. He loves Vrabel. He was a Patriots fan. This is what the Patriots need. But it's not looking great with how he's handled himself in Philly.
I don't think it's worth it. Because every day that goes by, he's getting older. Like, that's kind of how I see this stuff. Like, I think a lot of times there are big personnel decisions and mistakes that are made when not only do you think I can fix this guy, like the egotistical coach or general manager, more specifically the coach, right? But also, like, he's old. Like, and how old is AJ Brown? Is he that old? I mean, let's.
I think he turns 30 this year. This season.
He's old. He's a wide receiver. He's old. Like, so.
And not for nothing, Pete. You look at a team like the Eagles. Looking from the Eagles' standpoint of things, like I just watched the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, painfully, and I don't know that it was brought up really at all during their run. They basically cut bait with their best offensive player in the offseason. They traded Metcalf for kind of pennies on the dollar, and they went and won the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like that could be in the cards for the Eagles here too. Like that was no mistake. Like there's no way that your buddies on the PR team could really cover that up of like, that was a distraction. Like he was being a diva on the sideline, arguing with the head coach on the sideline. Like as much as you want to do like, competitive nature and these guys, their tempers run hot in the playoffs, like BS, man. There were stories all the time. There was always smoke with AJ Brown. And I'm like you, I'm one of those guys where I'm like, I know he likes Mike Vrabel. I know he grew up rooting for the Patriots. I know this is a good position with the Patriots, but like, do you just get that out of your system? Like, you know what I mean? And people were talking about, well, Stephon Diggs was better this year. He's been a diva everywhere. I'm like, that dude's like on trial right now. Like, what are we talking about? Like, kudos to Vrabel for not making it a huge distraction. But like, that dude is trying to prove to a court of law that he didn't strangle his personal chef. And we're talking about how, well, you come here and you could be a reclamation project like that. That's a joke.
Dude, and yeah, the other guy got to get arrested. And then I know this wasn't on Vrabel's watch, but the guy who got your best player who got in trouble right when the season started, I guess a couple years ago, the defensive guy. What's his name?
Oh, Peppers. Jabril Peppers.
Yeah, Jabril Peppers. So it's not, God bless you, Andrew. So it's
I mean,
not,
that's kind of the NFL. I mean, unfortunately, it happens everywhere. But like we're so used to Brady and Belichick, right? And you come in and you can keep your mouth shut for a year, and they had Josh Gordon like at one of the hotels in Foxborough, just like locked in his room. You know what I mean? That's not happening anymore.
Well, yeah, and the Diggs is almost like a Jim Bowden in a different way, like how reckless he was bringing other women to the Super Bowl city. Yep. And he's got a girl and a kid. It's like, dude, like it's just a bad look all around. So would you want to, if you could pick, one or the other, like Sophie's choice, AJ Brown or Stephon Diggs?
In that case, I'm picking Brown.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. The more this goes on, the more I don't know that Stephon's going to be on the team next year. And Brown, at least, I think. I mean, he's still a machine on the field. He's still going to give you 1,000 yards, which I know Diggs also gave you this year. But legit outside, X receiver, red zone threat, which Diggs was not. And he has played for Vrabel. So as much as I'm like, I don't buy into he's just going to fall into line, there is a better chance of him just falling into line because he does know what Vrabel's atmosphere is. You know what I mean? Like he knows.
Pretty good. He was a pretty high character guy with Vrabel. I don't remember hearing.
Yeah.
Because Vrabel will scare you to death. I wouldn't mess with Vrabel.
Yeah. And so that's where I'm like, he's 5 years older than he was then, in terms of, his body and also the way he probably thinks about himself. But I find it easier to believe that AJ Brown would be a non-distraction than Stephon Diggs would be a non-distraction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And you can hear more of this on Wicked Boston today, which is exciting for everybody. All right. The Pete Sousa Show. Jim Rome said it yesterday, so I'm going to say it. If you can like and subscribe over there. No, what did he say? He worded it perfectly. I picked this up from these guys. If you go to the YouTube page and you like what you see, hit that like button. It would mean the world to me. So there you go. Okay. Do that for us. The Pete Sousa Show, huge interview tomorrow. And we ramp up with the bracketology expert on Friday. Great week. Great job, Cam. Thank you so much, David Berov. Eye on the Storm. Check it out. And I will be watching. There's nothing like St. John's in a big game in late February. You can bet your bottom dollar I will be watching Peacock tonight. I can't wait for that game. I'm not sure who's on the call. I get to find out and then get jealous. The only person that doesn't make me, that's my age, that doesn't really make me jealous is Monaco because he's so good. What?
Fanta.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Oh, that's another guy. I love Fanta.
Big East guy, man.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Fanta makes you feel good when you walk into a room. That guy has the Jay Wright, Scott Drew superpower where, like, if you talk to John Fanta, you feel like you're real important. And, we root for Fanta here. That's awesome. I can't wait to hear that. All right, Pete Sousa Show. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, Slobachics.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level when we shut down to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning. So we love Extraco.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is Stark.
Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. NALGENE.com.
Our professionals are not only experts in managing urgent concerns, but also in providing top-notch preventative health care. We're proud to connect pet owners to a vast network of licensed veterinary professionals, ready to address any immediate concerns. Book your first appointment today.
Sports.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.